Act 1. Clara was feeling stuck in a rut and trapped in her hometown. Clara is suffering from feeling bored and stagnant in her routine. Clara ends up losing her job and aims to seek an adventure to escape her hometown. Clara meets a hobo named Carl at the rail yard near her house. Carl is a young man who smells of train grease and is an experienced traveler of the rails. He teaches her how to hop trains successfully and safely, and shows her a crew change. A crew change is a document used by railroad workers that contains the schedule and times of all freight. The crew change gives detailed information on which track takes which train to what place and what the times are. The hobo shows her how they can hop the border to Canada on a logging freight. Carl warns Clara of the dangers of riding the rails, but assures her that with him, it will be a safe journey because of his experience. Clara gathers some of her friends to go on an adventure and hop a freight train to Montreal with her new hobo friend Carl to help them. Along for the journey is Sarah, Samuel, Philippe, and of course Carl to help. Clara, Carl, and her friends wait out in the train yard behind some bushes to hide from the workers, all with backpacks full of gear. After what seems like hours, finally a train pulls up and Carl shows everyone that this is the train that will take them to Canada, according to his crew change. Carl finds an empty boxcar and opens it for them, and everyone packs into the boxcar. The group waits patiently, and before long, the train begins moving. The train is so loud and echoes through the empty walls of the boxcar. The adventure begins, and the group passes around a bottle of vodka to celebrate, and everyone is in high spirits. Clara watches the scenery blur by through the opening of the boxcar. After a few hours of enjoying the scenery and laughing with her friends, eventually the train begins to slow down as it approaches the train yard in Montreal, Canada. Carl checks his phone to find they are indeed outside the train yard in Montreal, and tells everyone this is when to jump off. One by one, each person jumps off the train. Plop, 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 plop. But the train begins to pick up speed again, and the last one to jump, Sarah, ends up twisting her ankle, which we find out later. The train continues to speed up, and Clara realizes it's moving far too fast to jump without injuring herself. After drinking far too much vodka, Clara realizes she's alone and drunk on a train moving into a highly secured train yard full of workers. The train arrives and stops in the largest train yard Clara has ever seen. Clara climbs out of the boxcar and realizes she must cross rows and rows of tracks and trains to get out, all while avoiding being seen by any railroad worker. Clara is in a blurry, drunken state, but she begins to start jumping over train after train, narrowly missing the railroad workers in the yard. Clara's heart is racing, and it feels like a video game to Clara, running and jumping and escaping the yard. After what seems like forever of running and jumping through their yard, eventually Clara makes it out of the train yard to a desolate highway. She has no idea where she is and where her friends are, and all the signs are in French. To make matters worse, Clara realizes she lost her phone somewhere in the train yard and has no way to contact her friends or find out where she is. Despite the predicament, Clara is feeling good about learning how to navigate the freight lines and escaping the train yard with her new knowledge of train hopping. Clara decides to pick a direction and start walking along the highway. As Clara is walking along the highway, suddenly she sees lights, and a policeman is pulling Clara over. Out of fear, Clara runs to hide behind a pole, but it's no use. The cop runs after her, shouting at Clara in French. Clara explains she only speaks English, and the cop asks her what she's doing out in the middle of nowhere. Clara explains that she got brought up here last night and is trying to get back to the park downtown where her friends are. The cop asks her name, and Clara Summers gives a fake name, Clara Spring. She says she's from British Columbia, Canada. Carl had told Clara that if you tell the cops in Canada you're from a different province than the one you're in, you don't show up in their system. The cop says okay and offers to drive Clara to the park downtown. Clara cannot believe she pulled off such a risky escape and didn't get deported or caught. Clara gets dropped off by the cop at the park in downtown Montreal. Clara eventually finds someone who will let them use her phone to get into contact and find her friends downtown in Montreal. Clara eventually reunites with her friends, who all thought she had been deported for sure. Clara finds out about Sarah's sprained ankle. She was the last one to jump. Clara's glad she didn't jump when this train started moving too fast. Despite celebrating Clara's risky escape from the train yard and police, Clara realizes the gravity of her actions and that she needs to get a passport so she can have legal paperwork to be in Canada. Luckily, Clara had a passport that was still active but had been lost in the States. Clara decides to be less reckless and go to the passport office to tell them she lost her passport in Canada. Clara comes across some other travelers in downtown Montreal, and she gives them advice on how to safely ride the rails. She teaches them what Carl taught her, to never step on a train knuckle, the part that connects each train car, because they can quickly move and cause great harm or death. Clara also gives them her copy of the crew change and explains how to use it. While talking to the travelers, Clara realizes how much she misses home and took it for granted. Clara finally receives her new passport from the passport office, and she can now book a flight back home safely and legally. With the new passport in hand, Clara returns to her hometown after an amazing summer in Montreal with her friends, having gained a new perspective on life from traveling in a new country, and can't wait to be home. Clara returns back home and doesn't feel the urge to escape or run away anymore. She's happy to be home and happy to have some wild stories to tell from her adventures in Montreal and her adventures hopping the rails.